What it do, what it do, what it do. You know what time it is. What up, what up? Let's get it popping. You guys already know the deal. We're late. Trying to get out of here before 8:30. We can do that. I believe in us. Because we need to get to the other side. We need to get to Conroe. We need to get to Conroe, Texas, guys, so that we can pick up food for our girlfriend so she doesn't get mad at us. Yeah, man, today's rough. Had a hard practice yesterday. Why is there a sock up here? That's weird. Had a hard practice yesterday. We got a lot of stuff to get to today. We're going to power through. We're not doing hydration breaks today, so hydrate throughout the course of the show. You guys know that I care about your hydration levels because hydration is not a joking matter, as we all know. But nonetheless, we gotta get through a lot of shit right now. We gotta get through a lot of stuff that happened in sports today, guys. As the job search continues, for some reason, my show keeps getting longer and longer, like it used to when I was in lockdown. Who would have thought? The more time I have to look up more things, the more opinions I have on sports. What else are we looking for? We are trying to set up the podcast section. Shout out to everybody who hops in on Twitch and YouTube. Even if you retroactively watch, I really appreciate it. A couple people do that, actually, especially on YouTube. Since we got a YouTube, I know it's not like, 10,000 subscribers or whatever, but the fact of the matter is people are going and finding that, and I get it. Not everybody has a Twitch account. YouTube's been around like literally 4 times as long as the lifespan of Twitch. So, but the Twitch is for the youths of America, which does not include the people who are watching on YouTube. I'm just kidding. It does include the people who are watching on YouTube. Although I will say, I worked with a guy. I don't know exactly how old he was, but I'm assuming he was like 40 years old based off of his appearance, but that's not a good indicator of age. Anyway, based off his appearance, I assumed he was like 40 years old, and he subsisted off of YouTube. Like, that was his TV. He'd like to watch, and to his credit, there's plenty of customized content on YouTube for any person who wants to check it out. Doing a sound check on Twitch. Like, subsisted off of, yep, we got it, we're good. Subsisted off YouTube, he did. It was a little wild. It was wild to find that out, especially by a guy like him. Although he did work in TV production, so it shouldn't be surprising that he was like really well versed tech savvy wise. But whether they want to or not. Wow, out of context, that's going to sound really bad. Oh, wow, you got that part, but not the actual. Whether they want to or not. Anyway, if you're a person watching this stream right now, you know what I'm doing. I'm doing the social media stuff. But also at the same time, don't forget we're on Twitch, we're on YouTube, we're on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcast, Spotify, all that good jazz like that. You can check us out there, hitting up the stream. We are gonna get started here soon. You guys know there's only one thing hindering me starting the show, and it is, you guessed it. Sending out the tweets that the show has begun. Broke Boys Sports. Oh, wait. Listen and watch live. Broke Boys Sports. Here we go. Get some hashtags on there. You know it's just not cool unless you put the hashtags on it. NBA, WNBA. What else are we talking about today? We talk about Puma a little bit. We talking about a little Puma. we talk about the NHL. Who would have thought? For the first time on the show ever, I think. I've never talked about the NHL on the show. And naturally, the first time we talk about it is going to be something absolutely horrifying to believe as a concept. But, you know, what are you supposed to do? NFL Twitter. I should probably add NFL Twitter to the... Yeah. You know what the shitty part about, like, the duplicate tweet thing is on Twitter, where you can't, like, send the same tweet like 1,000,000,001 times over? I will point this out. You can have beef with it, but, like, you can schedule the same tweet like 50 times in a row. Like, I do it all the time. I schedule my stuff to get tweeted out like multiple times throughout the course of a single day, which is how I tweet at like 5 o'clock in the morning without actually being awake. So, listen and watch live. Hit it up on Facebook real quick, and we get started here. Whatever happens, happens. Do you? Be free. All right, y'all. We got less than an hour. We're gonna power through it. Don't worry. Oh, that was the that was a great segue. That was the TikTok. That was my NFL Image of the Week TikTok. You should go check it out on my either Instagram account, because I put it on Instagram too, at the Ashton Forever, or you can check it out on TikTok, same name, the Ashton Forever. I honestly need to work on like my lighting situation overall, because I should know this as a black person. Like, lighting is never gonna, like, natural lighting's never gonna be your jazz, especially if it's natural lighting filtered indoors. So like very few times have I. Ooh shit, hold on. My bad. Yeah, I gotta work on that. Like, me personally. You know what I mean? Should I do podcasts? You know what? Hold on. WNBA. I try and make it well known that I talk about the WNBA on this podcast, so I ain't tripping. You a fucking hater. Oh, I need to close the window real quick. Got the window open. Once again, the weather is fucking perfect here in Houston, guys. So yeah, we're gonna close the window and get the podcast started real quick. All right, we all agree? All right, cool. Break. All right, we're back. Ready to power through. Power. Oh, I need to get the NFL schedule real quick. Because, yeah. History. Good thing I'm not screen sharing while I'm looking at my internet history. You guys would see so much research and nothing else. Like, wow, Ashton reads that many articles before the show? Wow, amazing. If you know me, I spend a lot of time like actually doing multimedia stuff, which is weird, but true. Like, I watch a video breakdown. Like, that's how I actually try and learn about football, like, as a sport, especially strategy wise. Like, the stuff I learned in college was like not enough. Like, the stuff I learned in college is not enough. Let's be for real. I wasn't very good in college. And my coaches were good, but I didn't understand football all that well, and they didn't have time to teach it to me because I came in. I was a freshman, and nobody's gonna waste time teaching a freshman. You know what I mean? This is how it goes. Did I ever tell you guys the story about how I was working out with the seniors, and I was like 50 pounds under on like every single lift they were doing, and I was taking too long, and they were like, "Hey man, you should probably like lift with the linebackers since you're like more their strength level." And I was like, "Yeah, it was a bad day, you know." And then it was really rough, like hearing people talk about because it was like I had been told to lift with the upperclassmen to like get better faster, and then they like kind of ditched me or whatever, and I was like, sure, whatever. It was weird because it was like we actually had like a conversation like that week about how we need to like work better as a unit, as a team, and all that kind of stuff like that. We need to support each other. I didn't tell anybody that they had done that, mainly because I kind of forgot. It was like 5 o'clock in the morning. I was very tired as a college freshman at 5 o'clock in the morning for a morning lift. But yeah, it was like they basically were just like, hey, yeah, man, you're actually slowing this down a lot, so get the fuck out of the way. That was a fun day. It was a fun day. I got my feelings hurt for a second, but like overall, not overall. Honestly, like I went and lifted with the linebackers. The linebackers are like mad hype, and they actually took time to like teach me how to lift. So it helped me in the long run, but it was really weird that like my own position unit was just like, get the fuck out of here, bro. Maybe they knew I was a phony. Maybe that's what it was. And that's your random Ashton story for this week. Anyway, time to get it done. You know what it is. Going live in 3. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everybody else in between, I'm Ashton G. Lewis. This is the Broke Boy Sports Podcast. It's episode 165. What did I call this one? What did I call this episode? Oh, hold on. Let me check YouTube. By the way, great segue. Don't forget to check out the show on YouTube, on Twitch, live streaming on there every single time that we go live. Other stuff. Oh, Power Struggle is what I named this one because it's getting a little hairy in the NFL in terms of like who's legit and who's not, and also who has control over their division. We got a good chunk of divisional matchups and key matchups. We started off Thursday Night Football with a hot one in terms of like quote-unquote playoff seeding for the NFC, right? Like in theory, the Cardinals and Packers are fighting for high seeds in the playoffs. We'll see what happens comes towards the end of the season. I feel like a lot of people forget or forgot what happened with the Cardinals last year, but we'll tackle that. We'll tackle that mess when we get to it. So, yes, we will tackle that mess when we get to it. Number one thing off the skimmy here, don't forget to check out the podcast. If you want to listen to it retroactively, you can always listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Podchaser, and Deezer. You can also watch the replays on YouTube and on Twitch. I will say I'm not big time enough on Twitch for them to permanently keep my show. So if you want to look at any episode that's been recorded for like the last 20 I think we've done on YouTube, simulcast at YouTube and Twitch, make that happen for yourself. All you got to do is go like and subscribe. Smash that notification bell to get a alert every time that we go live for the show. Hit me up on Broke Boy Sports. We go live 2 times a week, one for the NFL show of the week and then the other for just the overall show in general. We talk about everything else in sports. So with that being said, we got to power through here, ladies and gents. If you were not live on the stream before the show started, we are already running late, as we always are on this show. We are moving on to nerd news, and I'm actually bogarting nerd news for something that's actually way cooler than anything that happened in the nerd universe. Other than like Dune, apparently it's very, very good and I need to go see it. I've also begun to watch season 4 of Young Justice, and it's already amazing. That show, that is the best superhero TV show on air right now. And there is no debate about it whatsoever. It's an animated show. You should check it out on HBO Max if you're a person that has HBO Max, or if you're a person that watches things illegally. All 4 seasons exist. If you don't know what Young Justice is about, it is about the young superheroes who are not a part of the Justice League in the DC universe and their path to finding out who they are as people. Super complicated, convoluted villain type plans. Not like each episode builds upon itself to like a grandiose story. It's not like a little kid show. It's not with any stretch of the imagination for little kids. They tackle issues like last season. They talked about human trafficking, enslavement. They had Vandal Savage talking about like the value of what a legacy is. Not talk about it like in a blatant way, but like they utilize the DC characters and what they're about to talk, to have commentary on a lot of things that are going on. For instance, they talk about like the thin line between being a villain and a hero a ton in season 3, and it is absolutely amazing. Season 4 has already gotten started off, and they're talking about racism and interracial relationships. They're also tackling like familial trauma that is like generational type stuff, especially in mixed race families, using the Martians. Anyway, check it out. It is fucking amazing. What else we got here for nerd news is actually, like I said before, we're bogarting it to talk about a really cool story. So if you don't know who this young man is, if you're watching on YouTube or Twitch, you don't know who this young man is. His name is Mikey Williams. If to give you a brief synopsis of who this guy is as a person, he is a high schooler who has been well hyped almost beyond Zion Williamson levels of online hype. A lot of people have been long anticipating his transition into the professional ranks, and it seems like that has already arrived here. He's the first high schooler in North American sports history to sign an NIL agreement, an NIL deal. He also signed a deal with Excel Sports as a sports agency. He's 17 years old. 17 years old, signed a deal with an agent, and he has now signed his first major deal. He is going to be a signature athlete for Puma, ladies and gents, and that's why he's rocking the Pumas here in that profile photo. But yes, he signed this deal this week. It is prolific level stuff. Mikey Williams is now a millionaire, for lack of a better word. Depending on what happens next here, like he's at the high school ranks right now. So as we know, we live in the most open time ever for kids who want to advance on to the next level and the different number of paths that they can take. We talk about going overseas to play professional immediately, which we saw, has mixed results for certain players. But Mikey is supposed to be a generational basketball player. It seems like all of the pathways are open to him. If he wanted to play for G League Ignite, wanted to play for Team G League Ignite and go over there and sign a deal with them, or if he wanted to just go like straight to the G League, if he wanted to go to college for some reason, if that was something that interests him, despite the fact that college is probably the least beneficial, especially in Mikey's case, not necessarily for his education or for him as a human being, but the least beneficial thing for him financially, especially in the position that he is in now. But yes, this is another beautiful example of what happens when the people in power are not the ones who end up benefiting the most off of the labor of people who are not in power. Mikey is fully in command of his life and possibly is setting himself up to obtain generational wealth before he ever sets foot on an NBA court, which of course is like the end goal for all this thing, because not only is Mikey popping on social media, like very similar to LaMelo Ball and the Zion Williamsons, which is becoming a thing for a vast majority of the high-end recruits that exist that are trying to make that transition to the pros. You become like a social media star, not because of like TikTok dances or anything like that, but because of your skill level and your abilities to move and your ability to play. And people love to see beautiful basketball. And that's the beautiful part about it. It's not like a gimmick where it's like, oh man, this guy's amazing at basketball, and for that reason, he's getting a ton of attention. It's one of those situations where you watch him play. It is clearly this guy's next level, and people want to get in on the ground floor and watch his path. They want to watch his story develop as it goes along and be a part of it. So Mikey Williams signs a deal with a signature shoe and apparel line deal with Puma, joining LaMelo Ball as the faces of Puma in terms of athleticism, which makes, guess what, guys? Puma is got the two. Puma does not have access to like the top tier NBA superstars, right? Like they don't have access to the LeBrons, the Kawhi Leonards, the Kawhis of course with New Balance and everything like that, the James Hardens with Adidas, Kevin Durant, all those guys like that. So they've gone way back. They're trying to spot these guys before they get even on the scene. Even though Mikey Williams is like the exact opposite of being on the scene. Everybody in basketball, if you watch basketball even a little bit, probably has seen a Mikey Williams highlight and have been watching him for years. But yeah, Mikey is he is going to change the very existence of high school basketball athletes forever with the deal that he just signed. Because if it pans out for him, it's going to pave the way for another basketball player to sign a deal that's even bigger than what Mikey has at his disposal right now. And like I've said before on the show, before, and I'll keep saying, I love to see a black man get paid via J. Cole out there. So shout out to Mikey Williams and of course hoping for the absolute best for him when it's all said and done. We move on to best of the best. If you don't know, this show bills itself as the best and the worst that sports has to offer every single week. So we got best of the best, we got worst of the worst. When it comes down to it, here's how it's going to break down for best of the best this week. I think this one's a little bit more nuanced when it's all said and done, but it'll make sense when I break it down and when I get to it. Here we go. Best of the best this week. Last week it was Petty Queens. This week it's Petty King. Mark Davis, the owner of the Las Vegas Raiders, has come out and demanded that the rest of the emails that were utilized as a way to get John Gruden fired from the Raiders be released to the public or released just in general. Obviously, Every single owner in the NFL in some way, shape, or form probably doesn't realize it, but they don't want these emails to come out. There's one owner in particular, team owner in particular, that probably doesn't want any more of these emails to come out. It may be the guy who got caught up in like a sexual assault scandal just a year ago, less than a year ago, because it was the summer of 2020. We've already gotten past the summer of 2021. So like less than 2 years ago, the guy who's currently like under massive fire. Multiple people want to buy the Washington football team, including the minority owners that are already underneath Dan Snyder. You got the Jeff Bezos situation going on. That report that came out earlier this week where Jeff Bezos knows that the Broncos are going to be potentially up for sale this upcoming summer, and he has no interest in trying to purchase that team because his eyes are probably on one thing and one thing only, and it is the team that is in the nation's capital, ladies and gents. And it's going to be a little rough because let's be for real. Mark Davis is joining a long list of people who want those emails to come out, all for varying reasons, and obviously his is the pettiest of the petty because he wants to just take down as many people as he possibly can. Mark Davis is probably privy to like, hey, you know what, like my name doesn't come up in those emails, so like I definitely want people to see him type deal. So that's pretty funny, man. But yeah, Petty King Mark Davis stepping up and trying to do the seemingly right thing, even though we know it's not for the right reasons, right? Like he doesn't care. He tried to hang on to the whole John Gruden thing until it got like spiraled out of control. Like when it stopped being about when it was like racism towards black people, right? Not too many people like really flinched or really freaked out about it. When the slurs got mixed in there from like all over the varying spectrum of hate, that's when it got out of control and John Gruden had to get kicked to the curb. And John Gruden leaving an ominous message that the truth will come out. And it's like, yeah, we already know. Part of the truth already came out, bro. Like, that's why you don't have a job anymore, right? But yeah, joining the NFLPA and the U.S. Congress, like straight up Congress wants to have access to these emails. They're the most valuable emails on the planet next to probably a couple emails from Benghazi, like back in the day. But they got all those. Anyway. But yeah, check that out. NFLPA and the U.S. Congress and Mark Davis are pushing the NFL to release these emails, which is really weird for the U.S. Congress to do that because it is a government entity trying to force a private entity, a private company, which, by the way, does benefit heavily from the U.S. government. Like, we've talked about this before, like the U.S. government and the NFL, like, heavily intertwined. That's why, and really just professional sports in general, because for business to get done, Congress has to allow, like, certain exemptions for those businesses to become, like, massively profitable, right? And if you turn on politicians, they will turn on you viciously. So, especially considering there are people who want to own some of those franchises, those organizations across the board, and if they can target specifically one team owner, perhaps, who is already under heavy scrutiny and also in danger of potentially being removed as an owner, which I don't believe Dan Snyder actually is, because if that was a thing, we would have heard way more about it. Dan Snyder's trying to pay his money and get away from this, but Dan Snyder's mad as fuck. He's somewhere thinking, God damn it, they just keep bringing up all those times that I harassed those women, and I just don't get why. Like I said before in this podcast, if you see Dan Snyder, you tell him I'm looking for him. You know what I mean? But yeah, nonetheless, Dan Snyder's doom is more than likely comprised in multiple facets within those emails. So that'll be a ton of fun for everybody as they try to avoid having those come out to the public. And if Mark Davis, I'm sure he's already trying to figure out and find more owners who want those emails to come out, especially the ones that don't like Dan Snyder all that much, to have like a ton of power in terms of like the old teams in the NFL. Anyway, older ownership groups in the NFL, like the Maras and stuff. But I have a strange feeling that John Mara doesn't. You know, the hate that's in those emails probably doesn't really make John Mara flinch in any way, shape, or form. He's probably actually unimpressed by the horrible things that were said in those emails. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, and before we started the show, we will not be taking a hydration break. We're going to power through. We're going to go to worst of the worst. Straight to worst of the worst, ladies and gents. We are going to... Oh, wow. That is the old worst of the worst. So we're just going to stick to what's popping, and I'm going to read off what I got for worst of the worst. I don't know why I didn't save. Anyway, moving on. Stuff for worst of the worst here. The Chicago Blackhawks sexual abuse scandal / cover-up. So, this is... I guess I should do, like, trigger warning. If you... trigger warning for sexual assault... I think that's how I'm supposed to say it, to make sure that people who are affected by it still, which is an alarmingly high amount of people, do not feel like they weren't told beforehand. We're going to talk about sexual assault, in particular power dynamic sexual assault. So some of you guys, your brain's too soft to understand like these kind of concepts, but don't worry, I'm here for you. I'm here to teach you I'm here to educate you on certain things, especially since this happens a lot more frequently than people believe. Worst of the worst, ladies and gents, the Chicago Blackhawks cover-up of sexual abuse within their organization. On Wednesday, Kyle Beach came forward as the John Doe listed in a lawsuit against the Chicago Blackhawks that was centered around a player who had his sexual assault allegations mishandled by the team in 2010. It is the year 2021. It's almost 2022. The investigation, which was made public on Tuesday, revealed that Quenneville, who is the current manager for the Florida Panthers, was the former manager at the time of the Chicago Blackhawks, right? The Florida Panthers are like one of the hottest teams in the NHL right now. They killed it they literally had their best season in team history last year, and they were poised to do it again this year. It was made public and revealed that Quenneville was aware of the situation that took place, that happened, the sexual assault that happened, and did nothing about it, along with pretty much every other higher up exec for the Chicago Blackhawks, including they sent like the mental health coach for the Blackhawks, which, by the way, in the year 2010, surprised they had a mental health coach, but that's pretty progressive. Anyway, Kyle Beach is a player that was pulled up from junior hockey up to the big roster for the Chicago Blackhawks during the course of the playoffs, and apparently was in a position like they wanted him to be around because they wanted him to be a part of the organization, right? They thought that he was a potential high-end draft pick that can go out here and make a major impact as time goes on and become a big part of why the Blackhawks continue to be like a powerhouse. Obviously, the Blackhawks got their Stanley Cup and then have kind of fallen off ever since then. They had a really bad season last year. But the team video coordinator, and I'm going to make sure I say his name as much as fucking possible as I read this, because I want you to know. I want you to hear this man's name and make it associated in your brain with sexual assault. Brad Aldrich, who at the time was the video coordinator for the Chicago Blackhawks. Basically, I read the whole report, or I read the report that described the incident. Brad Aldrich had Kyle come over to his house and gave him, fed him food and drinks and stuff like that. They had an incident where, and I can't tell if this happened like on multiple occasions or if this happened like one time, because it sounds like it happened on multiple occasions, because there was one situation that involved a woman coming over, and then there was one situation where it was just the two of them, or if it was like the same night where like the woman came over then the woman left, because that is another thing that happened as well. But I'll describe it how I read it. So it seems like there's multiple situations where Brad Aldrich, who assaulted Kyle Beach, convinced him to come over and have engage in sex and sexual acts with him. And he also at one point, according to Kyle Beach, said that Brad Aldrich told him that he needed to pretend that he liked it, or it was going to be a problem. So he took advantage of the fact that Brad told Kyle that he had the power to help him in his NHL career, or he had the power, and this is called power dynamics, ladies and gentlemen, even if it is fake power, right? Brad Aldrich is a video coordinator. He's in charge of like cutting down film and stuff like that. Does he have the power to help? Does he have the power to influence who is and is not on the roster, who gets time on the ice and who doesn't? Who knows, right? Within that organization, every power dynamics are constantly shifting. But would a kid who just got pulled up from junior hockey know that Brad Aldrich is like really low on the totem pole or really high on the totem pole, right? Many would say that he does. Many would say he probably wouldn't, right? Brad pulls him to the side and tells him like, "Hey, we're gonna have sex and we're gonna do stuff." There was one point where like he jerks off on his back. There's one point where Brad gives him a blowjob, like forcibly gives Kyle a blowjob and stuff like that, and other things I'm assuming that happened that he just didn't want to mention in the report because, oh, by the way, this report is something that was commissioned by the Chicago Blackhawks organization, an independent research into the whole situation, and they got stories from Brad, they got stories from Brad Aldrich, they got stories from him, and they got stories from Kyle Beach. They also got stories from a woman who was involved in like a sexual thing that they had going on. It seemed like some threesome type stuff that they were doing, and then the woman left, and then that's when Kyle was forced to do even more sexual acts. This is like textbook power dynamic sexual assault, where you have leverage over someone. This is the shit that Harvey Weinstein was doing. This is the shit that a lot of other people in Hollywood and a lot of other people in powerful places, corporate-wise, utilize every single day, right, to get people to do things. They have the ability to control if your life is a living hell or if you succeed, right? And it's never like, oh, if you say no, it's totally fine and we're not going to talk about it. It's if you say no, the opposite of what I offered you is going to happen. So you might as well do what I'm telling you to do because you benefit from it and I get what I want out of the situation. They try and sell it that way, right? Plus they try and pitch it as like, hey, if you don't do this, I'm going to ruin your life. I'm going to ruin your career and you'll never be able to chase your dream. And Kyle Beach's dream is on the line, right? Like Kyle Beach's dream to play in the NHL and become a Stanley Cup champion on the line. Staunchly, literally, this one guy is like, I'm going to make sure that you never play NHL hockey again. Not for the Chicago Blackhawks, just in general. And once again, don't know the level of power that Brad Aldrich has, but he pretended that he did, and he utilized it. He utilized it as a weapon, almost as deadly as a gun to the back of somebody's head in this situation, right? To ruin a person's dream that they've been working towards their entire life. Like he's been like Kyle Beach's been playing hockey his entire adolescent and adult life and trying to get into this situation, and now somebody can take it away in a snap of their fingers if they want to or try to. And if you're wondering why we're actually talking about this, it's because Kyle stepped up and had the courage to tell somebody about him being assaulted by a member of a NHL team's staff. A National Hockey League member's staff was told that one of their other coworkers was assaulting a player, and then nobody did anything about it. Nobody did anything about it, right? That's the wild part. That's what we're dealing with here right now. The president of the Blackhawks and their former coach, who I mentioned before, Quenneville, has now, they've both resigned. The current president of the Blackhawks was the president back in 2010 as well. They've both resigned. The Blackhawks owners want Brad Aldridge's name removed from Lord Stanley's Cup because he's a sex offender. So, yeah. That is what's going on with the Chicago Blackhawks. Kyle Beach actually has an interview. Well, he actually was interviewed, and I'm sure it was on more news stations than ESPN, but he was on ESPN, and he actually talked about how it's important for him to stand up because he can inspire other people to stand up, which is exactly how this is exactly why it's important to create an environment where people who commit sexual assault are the people who feel uncomfortable, who feel unsafe, who don't feel like they belong in society, as opposed to the people who are victims of it. Because Kyle should not have to be in a situation where he's referencing multiple instances in sports, because he talked about the U.S. gymnastics situation that went on for decades, where Larry Nassar was assaulting young girls, where he talked about the U.S. women's soccer program where young ladies were being assaulted. And he mentioned multiple other examples of where in sports, when sexual assault comes up, nobody does anything to protect the kids. But the same people out here trying to tell you that they love and support you and they believe in you as an athlete, but they don't give a shit about you as a person. Anyway, moving on. There's really no good transition from that, so I'm just going to go into about a week ago. This is our segment where we talk about something that happened last week and look at how vicious the news cycle is to talk about it this week, or something that has changed drastically from last week to this week. So Lyle Collins, who is the Dallas Cowboys offensive tackle, who plays right tackle, and he is back from a 5-game suspension, and we should probably detail the entire story of this to kind of put it, like, the stupidity of this into like full context. So Lyle Collins had a 5-game suspension for missing drug tests. Not testing positive, but for missing drug tests. He actually got in trouble for not showing up on time. This happened multiple times last season, but he also passed all the drug tests that he showed up for and took last season, right? But he had drug tests that he missed for whatever reason it was. He gets hit with a suspension because he missed a drug test this season. NFL suspends him for 5 games. He originally, like, the team appealed it. They got the suspension cut down to 2 games that he was going to miss. But Lyle Collins thought that the backbone and the actual concept of suspending him for missing drug tests is not something that he should be suspended for. So he took it to a legal court, like an actual legal court. Judge determined, the NFL, like, based off the contract that you signed and the rules that the NFL enforces, this is 100% within their purview, which we all know. I don't know why he thought he had a legitimate case of, like, I just like me missing drug tests should not count as a failed drug test, even though like it would be something that people who are using drugs in the NFL and other professional sports would use as a reasoning, right? To get more time to possibly clear out their system. Same thing. I believe, honestly, like it shouldn't count as a failed drug test, but I understand why the league does that, especially because the league does such a good job of negotiating the players, the collective bargaining agreement between the NFLPA and the NFL. Why wouldn't they take the power to be able to put people on suspension for PEDs and drug abuse, right? Especially considering it saves money for, like, a lot of people don't consider this. So, like, Lyle Collins has missed, like, $2 million worth of money. And for whatever you have to talk about in the grand scheme of sports, $2 million is $2 million that the team gets to keep that was on the books to go to Lyle Collins that stays with the Cowboys. So they win on that one, right? And they still get to keep Lyle Collins as a football player. So they get to still use his services, but, like, $2 million cheaper because he missed a drug test, right? So he gets originally the 2-game suspension, goes to legal court. The legal court finds that, like, not only like throughout the course of the investigation and discovery and the case levied by the NFL, not only is your 2-game suspension being upheld, we're actually going to move it back to its original length of 5-game suspension because you missed more drug tests than we originally charged you for in the 5-game suspension, and there is now evidence to believe that you tried to bribe one of the proctors at the drug test. And he says that it was a joke that spiraled out of control. That's a weird-ass joke to be making for a dude that's in a drug test that is worth millions of dollars. But hey, you do you, fam. Especially considering, it's not my money. I can't really be out here trying to judge dudes or whatever, because at the end of the day, Lyle Collins missed out on $2 million. But guess what Lyle Collins still is? Rich. Right? And gonna be rich. He getting paid this Sunday to sit on the bench because he went from starting right tackle to backup right tackle because now Terrence Steele has stolen. And by the way, it's not Steele like Steal, Steal. It is Steele like Steele. So he has taken his spot on the number 1 spot on the depth chart, and Lyle Collins is now the backup, which I'm assuming is definitely going to affect his next contract negotiation, especially considering any form of other than, like, I went out there and I played at a high level is going to be something used against you in negotiations, right? Like injuries and drug suspensions and stuff like that are leverage for the team to utilize against you to make an argument that you're worth less or contract-wise this time around. Anyway, that's how we went. Lyle Collins went from a 2-game suspension, and now he is a backup after his 5-game suspension because he thought he was in the right for missing that drug, or he thought he shouldn't have been punished as heavily for missing a drug test. Anyway, just a really weird story for about a week ago. We Talking Money, or We Talking Money? It's a segment on the Broke Boy Sports Podcast where we talk about money and making it. This is massive. WNBA legend Alana Beard. Follow her on Twitter at Alana Beard 20. Alana Beard, ALANA. Beard spelled like beard and 20. She is the head of a leader. She's the lead for an ownership group that is trying to get a WNBA team in the expansion. To get an expansion WNBA team in Oakland, California. And she is partnering with AASEG to bring an expansion team to the Oakland area, which would be massive just in general because basketball is huge in Oakland just in general. We saw what happened with the Warriors, and we saw for a long time that even when the Warriors were bad, they still had a fan base that supported them. And if this pulls off pretty soon here, they're going to have a big chunk of financial backing. And I just like to point out, this is another example of like what 2 good seasons of exposure can do, right? Like there were more WNBA games on TV than ever before in the last 2 years than the last like 5 combined, the last 5 previous years, right? And now we're already talking about legitimate expansion, which is something that WNBA fans have been complaining about for damn near a decade, right? And now they're going into a hotbed like Oakland, a place that, sad to say, is being gentrified, but something that does, an area that does have a ton of money flowing into it, which means that there's money to be flowed into the team, and could be the next huge step for the WNBA, especially if they can find some California gals out there to go and play that are not, the LA Sparks are a huge deal, and another team in the WNBA in the California area could be a huge deal in general because there's so much money to be made in California overall. But yeah, there you have it, ladies and gents. Potential expansion team on the way for the WNBA, and we are talking money if they can find a way to find a foothold in Oakland. So, media suggestions for this one. This is actually really funny. So, like I've told you before, you need to follow every single team on YouTube because you see funny shit like this. So this video, if you're watching on Twitch and on YouTube, is sponsored by like a local BMW dealership in the LA area, and it is Chase Daniels and Justin Herbert and somebody else with tuxedo t-shirts on, and they're having a conversation about like brisket. Apparently Justin Herbert like kills it when it comes to making brisket, and I learned that through this video. They also have him like eat brisket while trying to guess like 90s trends or something like that. Like they show him like a picture of Saved by the Bell, and he has no idea what it is. Like he just knows like one of the names of the characters. He doesn't know like what the actual TV show is. So those are always really funny to me because it's like blatantly obvious answers and stuff like that. Also, you get a chance to see a little bit of Justin Herbert's personality, which by the way seems like he's way too chill. I'm kidding. He definitely comes off like California chill is in this video and just in general, because I saw him. He actually hates being mic'd up, and basically they mic'd him up at one point during training camp, and he was like, all right, you get this one time and then we're never doing this again. So we'll see we'll see how that goes down. But yeah, check out that video. It is on the Chargers YouTube account, and it's them talking to Justin Herbert about brisket and a bunch of other things as well about his life and what's it like to be roommates with Chase Daniels, who, by the way, is still hustling hard, ladies and gentlemen, to get this money. Chase Daniels out here raking it in as a backup, an unquestioned backup. It has been the definition of a career backup, and just putting the money in the bag, keeping the ski mask down, putting the money in the bag. Nobody ask any questions. Chase Daniels out there doing this thing, man. The hustle continues out there. Just did not know that Justin Herbert was a big brisket guy. Shout out to him. Hopefully, he's a guy from Oregon, right? Like he's lived in Oregon his entire life. Who would have thought? Moving on to what's going on, ladies and gents. And actually, we're gonna take a quick hydration break and try and power through real quick. We're at a 30-minute show. We got to get less than that. Thank you so much for going off of my ears for no reason whatsoever. We are going to jam out to Christina Gukis' Make Your Mark for a second and put some tweets out there, and then we're going to power through. We're going to talk about the NBA, and we're going to talk about the World Series. We're going to talk about NFL games. That's it. All right. And we're back here for the final segment of the Broke Boy Sports Podcast. Shout out to everybody who's checking us out on YouTube and on Twitch. Shout out to everybody who's listening retroactively on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all the other big-time Google Podcasts as well. Big-time podcast distributor, website / application / programs. Don't forget, you can also listen live if you go to Spreaker.com. You type in Broke Boy Sports. You can also check me out on Twitter, FB_playbook. The link in my bio is a link tree to all the things that you want to know about me and everything that you can follow me on, except like my TikTok, which is the same name as my Instagram. We got stuff to talk about here. In the World Series, a lot of weird things have been going on. Game 3 is currently going on right now, so I can't give you an update. I'm sorry. 2 blowouts so far in the World Series. Game 1, the Braves absolutely wrecked the Astros. Game 2, they returned the favor. Really weird thing that happened. Charlie Morton, who, by the way, was the pitcher for the Astros the last time they won the World Series, actually won the World Series for the Stros, so he'll always be a legend in my heart. And actually on a pitch, on the return velocity off of a pitch that was hit towards the pitcher's mound, hit him in the leg and broke his leg. Like, not completely shattered it, of course, like split it in half, but like Charlie Morton literally had his leg broken by a pitch in Game 1 of the World Series, and he is out indefinitely until like spring training of next season, which is really wild to think about. But yeah, 102 mile pitch, or 102 mile return velocity from where he threw out that pitch. And just really grateful it only hit his leg and not anything else like, his face or anything like that. That was wild. And he also, by the way, Savage season kept pitching until he literally couldn't stand on his leg anymore. So, and then he kind of like walked off the field like under his own power and everything. So, really wild. That's the World Series so far. I'm not going to get super deep into my baseball analysis. You guys know I'm a beast when it comes to baseball. That's why I talked about it every single episode of the podcast, right? Other stuff in the NBA. NBA is moving on into like week 2 / week 3. They all kind of blend together after a certain point, but we're going to call it week 2. Ja Morant had one hell of a week so far. He dropped 30 points in a win versus the Warriors, giving the Warriors their first loss of the entire season. He had a 17-point double-double with 9 rebounds, so almost a triple-double versus the Blazers to get that dub, and he started off the week with a 40-point double-double, had 10 rebounds in a game versus the Lakers that they actually lost off of a field goal. That they actually lost off of a free throw that he missed in the waning seconds of that game. It was actually kind of wild to think about. But yeah, Ja Morant tearing it up to start the season. A couple other teams doing kind of well right now. I got a friend, Kevin Tran, who follows me on Twitter. We talked about this via text about how he believes the Timberwolves are going to kill it this year. Well, to his credit, right now, they don't suck. They're currently 3-1 on the season. They actually had a killer win versus the Milwaukee Bucks over Giannis, who had a 40-point, 16-rebound kind of game, and Anthony Davis came out and blatantly said, he's like, you can't stop him. It's just about doing everything else in your power to stop everyone else. And to his credit, Anthony Edwards, a very smart young man, he's understanding the NBA at a high level very, very quickly. I like it. The Lakers lost to the Thunder, which of course sent the Lakers fans into their constant state of dread that's spiraling, which, by the way, like, they should really go see like a mental health official about that. Like, Lakers fans love to be sad. They love to be mad. So yeah, anyway, Bron has missed the past 2 games for the Lakers because of an ankle injury that he sustained, I believe, in that game versus the Memphis Grizzlies. So the constant state of dread continues for the LA Lakers, and honestly, they get to participate, and a lot of other media members do. They get to participate in one of their favorite hobbies. And honestly, what has been more fun for people in the NBA circles than to hate on Russell Westbrook for the last decade? And so they're back. They're back to their favorite game, especially now that Russ is on Russ is on a premier franchise within the realm of the NBA. Everybody is back at it, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, by the way, the Jazz are the only undefeated team in the NBA. They're doing it again. They're doing that thing again. Hopefully, they can stay healthy all the way through, or they can get healthy at the right time and get wins. Nobody's going to stay healthy all the way through. The number 1 overall pick, Cade Cunningham, is yet to make his NBA debut. He has been practicing with the G League Association for the Detroit Pistons. Yes, the Pistons G League, not that the Pistons are a G League team yet. He's been practicing with the G League team for the Pistons. Wink, wink, hint, hint. Resting up. Got to make sure his ankle's at 100% before he goes out there and plays in his first NBA game, and also rack up some of these losses. The Pistons have not won a game this season so far. Trying to get to that number 1 pick again. I see you, boy. JJ Redick, by the way, joining up with ESPN. He's going to become an analyst for them. Shout out to him. The Packers. So we move on to the NFL games here, and like I said before, ladies and gents, we're already running behind. and I'm going to just power through, and I'm going to give you my quick hitters on this one because some of these games are real. Some of these games are quite simply very easy. The Bengals versus the Jets. I'm taking the Bengals on this one just because the Bengals have one of the best defenses in the NFL, and combined with the fact that Mike White, who is, yes, a guy that you've never heard of until I just said his name, and we mentioned this before, He's a guy you've never heard of until I mentioned his name. He is the new starting quarterback for the Jets. The Jets have also traded for Joe Flacco to make his triumphant return to New York, which I'm sure everybody's ecstatic about because he was, he's a sign of good times, right? For everyone. Is Joe Flacco elite? The question still looms all these years later. Anyway, I got the Bengals on the easy one on that one. Titans versus Colts. This is a huge one. This will go a long way in locking up the AFC South for the Tennessee Titans if they can go out here and get this dub. The Colts have been on the up and up lately, man. I will say this. They've played very, very well against very bad teams, which makes me believe that the Tennessee Titans are going to go out here and do their thing. You want to talk, both of these teams are on the up and up right now, and honestly, it looks like the AFC South has the potential to have two teams in the playoffs again because the Colts have played really, really well when they have opportunities to stomp out really good teams. They played against one of the best defenses in the NFL last week versus the 49ers, and then they also generated 4 turnovers against a mediocre offense in the 49ers, right? They've done it well. They've beaten the Texans and the 49ers in the last couple of weeks, and people are impressed with them, and they've also beaten the Dolphins. I'm not impressed with that. I'm way more impressed with the Titans, who, by the way, will not have Julio Jones in this matchup, so that'll be interesting, especially if the Colts have T.Y. Hilton, which I think is still up in the air. He had a quad injury or whatever. The Rams are taking on the Texans. I'll be taking the Rams. The Steelers are taking on the Browns. It's a huge divisional matchup, especially considering this is two of the better defenses, not only in the AFC North, because pretty much every defense in the AFC North is crazy. Like I said before, the Bengals are like a top tier defense in the AFC or in the NFL just in general. The Browns and the Steelers are like 2 tiers below them. I would say the Steelers are above them because the Steelers are really basically playing their offense in a victory because of field positioning when it's all said and done, and they're not getting any help. I am going to bank on the Browns being able to pull this one off. Baker Mayfield is allegedly going to be playing in this game. He's going to be the starter for this one. Nick Chubb is allegedly making his comeback in this one. I am banking on the Browns to come out here and do their thing. They are, one, immensely more talented. Well, I wouldn't say more talented. That's the weird part. The Steelers are still a very talented football team defensively and on the offensive side of the ball. They're just being held by a quarterback who can't throw further than 10 yards down the field. But yeah, I'll take the Browns in this, in what I would call an upset because the Browns are still coming back from a lot of injuries. They had a bunch of dudes who just flat out didn't practice on Friday today, and a lot of them play in the secondary, so we'll see how that goes. Eagles versus Lions. If there was ever a game that the Lions could take, it is the hapless, and honestly, I wouldn't say hapless because that would imply that the people on the field suck. It's the people calling the plays to control the people on the field that suck for the Eagles. But yeah, I'll take the Eagles in this one, man. I have to have faith that I know that Jalen Hurts has more than enough talent to go out here and beat the Lions. It's just a question of if his coaches are going to put him in a position to succeed. It's also going to be a question of whether or not the Eagles are going to go out there and play their soft zone because Jared Goff has already shown the ability to throw multiple times throughout the course of this season. So yeah, I'll take the Eagles, man. Have faith that they're going to be able to go out here and get a win that they should get a win for. By the way, shout out to the Lions for keeping my prediction. Somebody asked me the top 3 teams in the NFL that I believe could go winless this season. The Colts have beaten successfully 2 teams they've beaten 2 teams with losing record, 3 teams with losing records, and the Lions have beaten no one. The Cardinals are one of the best teams in the NFL, so I call that pretty bad. I call that pretty good. I identified a bad team because I still believe the Colts are a bad football team. They just are beating teams that suck. That's fine. And then the Lions are a team that actually, at multiple points throughout the course of the season have played better than the Colts have against better competition. They just haven't been able to finish, which is weird to say. The 49ers versus the Bears. Also, it does not hurt that the Lions are haunted by the angry racist ghost of Henry Ford. 49ers versus Bears. This is going to be a rough one. Good luck to everybody who's watching this one. This is 2 of the best defenses in the NFL, combined with the fact that it is going to be Jimmy Garoppolo versus Justin Fields. This is an opportunity for Jimmy Garoppolo to show that he still got some juice in his arm because, quite frankly, the train is off the tracks. The train is way off the track with the 49ers in this whole quarterback situation. As a matter of fact, they got everything damn near everything else set up except the quarterback position, and it's brutal because they traded for Jimmy Garoppolo, and it started off really well, and now it's come to this where I'm questioning if they are capable of beating the Chicago Bears, who are starting a rookie quarterback, right? Who are heavily injured. They're not gonna, like, the Bears aren't even gonna have Khalil Mack, and I still think this is a little close. To the 49ers' credit, they're not gonna have Javon Kinlaw, so there's that as well. But, man, this is a tough one. It's not going to be raining as far as I know. Is it going to be a cocaine game? I don't know. I will have faith in the 49ers to not go out here and turn the ball over 4 times because they were playing in a monsoon. Because I fervently believe that game versus the Colts was supposed to be a lot closer. The weather affected their ability to play well. And Jimmy Garoppolo, Jimmy Garoppolo is a delicate flower. He needs the environment to be as good as he can possibly get it to be. And somehow, for the first time ever in the history of California, it rained very, very badly over the course of that game. I'm going to go with the 49ers to get this win. That may be an upset, even though the 49ers are clearly the better team. We'll see what happens. Panthers versus Falcons. This one's a rough one because, quite frankly, these two teams are going in opposite directions, ladies and gents. The Falcons and the Panthers. Panthers started off the season hot, have fallen off hard last week. We saw them get smoked by the Giants, mainly because they have a quarterback who can't find people to get open. That's not going to be a problem versus the Falcons, but the question starts to become, can Sam Darnold outduel Matt Ryan? And if you know anything about Matt Ryan and Calvin Ridley and Russell Gage and everything like that, don't you find it weird how, like, the Falcons seem to continuously have really high quality level receivers? It's almost like Matt Ryan is a part of why those receivers are so good, and I think that is what we're dealing with here. I've picked against the Falcons, and they've burned me multiple times this season. Of course, this will be the week that they make me look bad if I pick them to go out here and get this win. I just hate picking against the better defense. That's like my personal mantra that really stops me from picking the Falcons in this situation. But also the fact that this game probably is going to be pretty close. But I guess we're about to find out. This is a divisional matchup, and honestly, if I lose this one, I'd rather lose it picking the Falcons, who I believe is not only the better team, but also understands themselves a lot better than what the Panthers are right now. Like, the Panthers defense started off hot. They played against a lot of poor teams overall, and were able to go out there and take care of business. Like we said before, I've said it many times on this show, you got to beat the bad teams before you can beat the good ones, right? That may not necessarily be true in the NFL because there's plenty of teams that play up and down the competition. The Philadelphia Eagles. Anyway, I'll take the Falcons in this one. They've been, sad to say, the more consistent team, and also they've been able to at least keep most of the games pretty fucking close. Other than the game versus the Eagles, they've kept every game they've played this season pretty close, and it's come down to like the last couple of possessions to determine who wins. And I have more faith than Matt Ryan, Matty Ice, baby, to go out there and win than Sam Darnold. Dolphins versus Bills. Tua Tagovailoa is back in this one, but the Dolphins defense is in a very different place than it was the last time that they played the Bills. And the last time they played the Bills, they lost 35-0. I'm going to go out here on a limb and say that the Dolphins are not going to lose by scoring 0 points. They're going to score points in this one, but I'm still going to go with the Bills overall. Tua Tagovailoa has been killing the last couple of games, and have been against really poor teams, right? Like, they lost to the Falcons last week, but nonetheless, he threw 80% completion percentage. I will point out, like we mentioned in the breakdown for NFL Week 7 on the last episode of the podcast, guess what also has happened for Tua? Tua had also went like a quarter and a half without scoring a single point, or leading the offense to be able to score points, like even with a field goal. So I'm going to go with the Bills on this one. It's pretty simple. Patriots take on the Chargers. This one should be legit, especially if Mac Jones goes out here and does what we've been seeing him do the last couple of weeks, and that's throw the ball further and further down the field, which is a sign that he may or may not be, and I hate to see it, he may be catching on how to play quarterback in the NFL. And we got another problem because I know some of you guys have already been so stupid and mentally been like, open shut case. Tom Brady won the Super Bowl last year. It's totally Bill Belichick. Some people just don't believe that it can possibly be a mixture of the success of those two people, because Mac Jones succeeding would actually completely shatter their reality if we're trying to be straight up about it. But yeah, Patriots versus Chargers in this one, baby. I'll be taking the fun team here, and that's the LA Chargers, who are coming off of a bye week, who, by the way, they've had multiple games where they've just like completely shut down. Like, they've had close games throughout the course of this season, and the Patriots haven't actually done well in close games. If you recall, you recall the Dallas Cowboys game, the Buccaneers game earlier this season as well, and they've come up like they come up on the wrong end of the close games. But yeah, I'll take the Chargers. In this one, I'm expecting to see something weird this time around from Bill Belichick to try and mess with Justin Herbert, especially considering Justin's already struggling with his connection with Keenan Allen. We'll see how that shakes out in the long run. Also, don't forget the Patriots have lost Jonathan Jones for the entire season, so that's definitely going to affect some stuff. This is going to be a fun game. I expect this game to be very, very fun. This is one I'm going to go out of my way to watch. Washington football team versus the Broncos. Man, my logic, based off of the last couple of games for the Washington football team, it makes me think that they're going to win this game. It makes me think that the Washington football team is going to win this game versus the Broncos because of what they did versus the Packers the week before, and then even the week before that, they get so close and they just don't finish. They're one of the few teams that really struggles to finish completely throughout the course of a game. I question whether or not their whole front seven thing is going to show up because their whole deal with the Washington football team. Front seven has to show up or everybody else is going to struggle and everybody else is going to suck. And it's going to suck for everyone it's going to suck overall if the front seven doesn't show up and that's how they get cooked. Is Teddy Bridgewater going to be able to cook them enough to really pull any separation away? They just came off a game where they struggled to beat the Cleveland Browns on short notice with Case Keenum and 2 backup running backs and also multiple backup players on defense. I'm going with the Washington football team. I don't. In my mind, it makes more sense for the Washington football team to win this one, man. They've shown that they have the potential to go out there and finish game. They've shown the potential to go out there and score at a high level, and I get it. The Broncos defense is very intimidating, but if they get multiple opportunities to. My thing is their defense is going to pull off multiple stops because of how the current state of the Broncos offense. I'm banking on that. Anyway, Jags versus Seahawks here. God damn it, guys. I know Russell's not back. I got to believe in Geno Smith to get this win. Not only because of the effort that I saw defensively from the Seahawks on Monday Night Football and really the last 2 games because what they did versus the Steelers was pretty impressive as well. But to see what they did against Jameis, maybe they're starting to finally catch on and they're starting to go out there and make the plays that we all expect them to do. Jamal Adams had a really good game going out there and making plays on Sunday Night Football. No, it was Monday Night Football versus the Saints. One of the better, at times they've been one of the better offensive teams in the league. I get it, their wide receiver situation is a little wonky, but the Seahawks basically shut down everything that wasn't a pass to Alvin Kamara, and that's really impressive to me. It came down to a field goal because the offense couldn't do anything. If there was ever a chance for the offense to go out there and get plenty of time to figure out how to get into the end zone, it's going to be against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I expect some turnovers generated because it's still Trevor Lawrence, who, by the way, you want to talk about cutting it off. Trevor Lawrence is really cut down on the turnover stuff, and that's kind of you go 4 or 5 games into the season, you look like one of the worst rookie quarterbacks in the game, right? He looked like he was the last place rookie quarterback because he was in such a bad situation overall. They're coming off of a win, off of a bye week, and then finding a way to cut down the turnovers, run the ball more, look more efficient. I'm pulling for the Seahawks, but it's hard for me to go out here and say that the Jags are not going to play well. They've done nothing. They've continued to improve, and playing against the Seahawks is going to be a massive step up because playing against the Dolphins, there's a huge gap between the Seahawks and the Dolphins, as a team and as a structured team and everything like that. Bucks versus Saints. This is going to be a revenge game for Jameis Winston. I personally believe that the Chaos King shall reign supreme. Chaos King shall reign supreme, especially considering he played really, really poorly versus the Seattle Seahawks. So it only makes sense that he goes out here and he illogically wins the game versus the Buccaneers. I'm banking on that. Cowboys versus Vikings. This is really weird. The Vikings have played really well against bad teams this season, so it almost deceived me into believing that they're kind of a good football team. They've had moments where their offense is completely shut off. That has never been a thing for the Cowboys, and I'm banking on the Cowboys to go out here and do their thing. Mike Zimmer, former Dallas Cowboys coach. If you ever heard Deion Sanders talk about Mike Zimmer, he says that's his favorite coach ever. And ever since I heard him say that, I've always had great reverence for Mike Zimmer. Not even more reverence for Mike Zimmer as a coach. Giants versus Chiefs. Oh man, you want to talk about? I heard somebody say this is a must-win game on ESPN earlier today, and honestly, I was just like, man, y'all, wow, it's week 8. Calm down. It is week 8. I'll tell you this much. They squeezed a lot of juice out of this whole team that they built up with a bunch of rookies and stuff like that. But I believe they go out here and get this win versus the Giants. But it's gonna be, honestly, with the way they've been playing on offense, it might be a slugfest, baby. It really, because the Giants ability to get pressure is way better than what the Titans are bringing out there. And the Titans are pretty good this season. So this might be a back and forth affair between Patrick Mahomes and one Daniel Jones. Don't let Danny Dimes get out here going drive for drive with Patrick Mahomes and continue to improve this season, which, by the way, he has, which is really weird. I expect the Giants offense, which, by the way, struggled mightily against the Panthers defense out there. Lest we forget, minus the Panthers offense just like not showing up. That game should have been a lot closer than it actually was because of it should have been closer, but who knows? Anyway, the Giants and the Chiefs, man, I'll take the Chiefs on this one just off the pure talent across the board, and I'll be interested to see how this one shakes out because I'm not like this is one of my least confident picks of the entire week. I'll take the Chiefs to go out here and get this win. And you know, people were talking about they need to get this one in impressive fashion. I was like, they need to get the dub, dog. Especially after that video came out where, if you haven't seen it, there's like a TikTok video where like Jackson Mahomes and his wife, Brittany Mahomes, I believe it is. Jackson is the younger brother of Patrick Mahomes, and they're doing like a TikTok dance at like a bar while they're sitting down at a bar. And Patrick Mahomes is like in the background. He's like, what are you doing? Like, what? He's literally like, what is going on? Like, can either one of you pass block? Just stop talking to me. Get out of my face. Also, he looked like me. Maybe he was a few fruity Mai Tai drinks really deep. Which, by the way, if you know anything, see, this is how you know who you're dealing with, real alcoholics or people who drink alcohol in general. Everybody knows that those fruity drinks, they're fruity because they got a shit ton of alcohol in them. Don't get caught up. Don't get caught up. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're out on that one. That's all the games for Week 8 of the NFL season. Shout out to you guys for sticking through with the show. Thank you for doing this accelerated show. We got under an hour. Jesus, man. Going out here doing the thing. Shout out to everybody who has been watching and looking at the show afterwards as well. Trying to help me get one step closer to that $100 million contract and my goal of getting 3,000 downloads for this before this year comes to an or before January 21st of like next year, because that will be the 1 year anniversary of the Broke Boy Sport or 2 year anniversary of the Broke Boy Sports podcast. Appreciate everybody. Follow me on Twitter at FB_playbook at the Ashton J. Follow the podcast on Twitter at Broke Boy Pod if you want to get constant links to listen to the podcast. That is what that Twitter account is for. Follow me on Instagram at the Ashton Forever. A lot of people, I actually, not gonna lie, been getting a couple of Instagram followers here and there. I post on there pretty regularly, but lately I've been kind of doing a lot better about putting cool looking stuff on the internet, and so people have been following me in turn. Also, you get to check out my Instagram story on Monday for my on Tuesday for my Monday moments, where it's like the best photos that I saw this weekend in sports, and it's usually just football stuff, but now I'm sprinkling a little basketball in there. So on that note, we out. Hopefully we can make it to this restaurant before it closes here. All right, later, y'all. Wash your hands, wash your ass, wash your whole body, please. If you have access to a full shower, please take advantage of it. All right, later. Bye. And gotta shut this.